As Chrissy said, distracting us from real stuff. This is real stuff, unfortunately. It's very real. So a new report from the New York Post claims that non-citizens are receiving voter registration forms when they fill out other government paperwork in every single state in the U.S. besides Arizona, because they had the balls to actually pass a law to ban this. Good. So when you go to the DMV and you get your driver's license, they give you a registration form to fill out to vote. Yeah. They do that at welfare offices too. Oh, great. They do that. Also, you can apply for mail-in balloting. They don't check your citizenship status. At none of these places do they check your citizenship status. Great. And illegals can get welfare benefits in a majority of blue states, and they can get driver's licenses in an increasing number of states. And they are being given registration forms without being asked whether they are citizens. And this is going on while the Department of Homeland Security projects that more than 8 million illegal immigrants will be living within the United States by October, which is a 167% increase over 5 years. Holy And shit. That's just the numbers that they admit. All the conservative estimates, conservative groups estimate that it's way above that. So this guy named Hans von Spakovsky,
he's
from Heritage, Heritage Foundation. He presented examples before Congress in May about examples of illegals being registered to vote. He presented Congress with a list of 19 illegal aliens from Italy, Mexico, the DR, El Salvador, Haiti, the Philippines, Panama, South Korea, Poland, Guatemala, Nigeria, and Canada, who were prosecuted and convicted in the state of North Carolina for illegally voting in multiple state elections. Wow. He brought up one individual from Pittsburgh who wrote a letter to his county official saying, "I was registered to vote. I didn't know that you can't vote as an illegal. I don't want to be registered to vote anymore. Please take me off."
Holy shit.
And they weren't going to check up on him. He had to report himself. Oh my God. Because he didn't want to go to jail, because that's a crime. Because it is illegal to vote. It is illegal to vote as a non-citizen in the U.S., and it is technically supposed to be illegal to register to vote, but unless your citizenship actually gets checked, it won't actually be prosecuted. So the Spakovsky found that 10,000 to 20,000 illegal immigrants have been registered to vote by Pennsylvania alone over the last 20 years. The pair also presented similar evidence of non-citizen voting in California, New Jersey, and Chicago. This is all going on, by the way, while New York City continues to give out some of their $5 billion to migrants for welfare programs.
$5 billion?
$5 billion set aside for it. Credit cards, hotel rooms. New York City gave 700,000 people cash welfare in 2023, making the welfare levels swell to levels they haven't seen since 2000. And Hochul, whatever, is using taxpayer funds to give welfare to legal aliens through the Safety Net Assistance Program, which is intended for U.S. citizens who are below the poverty line. She's giving it to the illegals that are now at the level of 65,000 in New York. And what are Republicans doing about this? Well, they've approved of a new bill called the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, SAVE Act, but they haven't even brought it to the floor for a vote yet. And they said, maybe we'll bring it to the floor by August. By that time,
that's why
we're going to get a no, and then they're going to go back to the drawing board, and then they're going to say, oh, it's too late now, it's November. And to me, this is really the only issue that matters right now, because every single other issue has no bearing if we don't have control over our own elections. And if the entire world can vote in our elections, then we have literally no freedom and no power, because our policies that affect our everyday lives can be controlled by vast organizations that have no government accountability, giving out registration forms for illegals to vote. And Chrissy, you were saying that there's groups at the border who've been making a killing facilitating this.
Yeah, so that's where I was going to bring it next. It's real crazy because you always have to follow the money, right? Follow the money. What's happening right now is there's non-governmental organizations, NGOs. There's 3 at the southern border. I'll pull up the names of them. One of them sounds like Southwest, but it's Endeavors, Inc., Global Refuge, Southwest Key Programs. And these organizations were making about $597 million in 2019, which is really not that much relative. Nope. They're making $2 billion now when they're handing out flyers saying, remember who is voting or remember who brought you into this country, Biden. Continue to vote for these people as you.
Oh, they tell them as they're, no, of course. It's like,
they get
listen,
flyers.
Biden. Yeah, of course. They're not going to tell them Republican, vote for Republican.
Of course. And the craziest thing is that this is pocketing a couple of other people, by the way. We saw I'm looking at the numbers. It's crazy. The CEOs of these companies, you can just see on the little chart that I'm looking at. They were making like no money in 2019. Then all of a sudden they're making millions of dollars, these CEOs. And you know who funds these NGOs? It's not private dollars. It's not just, oh, you want to give your money. No. The taxpayers are funding it to the federal government. The federal government then pays these NGOs to then let people into the country illegally who are going to vote for Democrats. It's an enrichment scheme.
Of course it is. And when you say, Shane, about the whole, Republicans, bro, there's no such thing as a like it's that word is finished with me. Republican Party, Democrat, bullshit. Because all they do is go, hey, I'm mad. I'm going to write a letter. We're going to have a hearing. Nothing happens. Zero. And I'm tired of this shit.
It's like maybe like 10 of them in the House that you can kind of trust. But even still, it's like there's no when having an ID to vote seems like the most basic common sense law you could possibly push to the table. The fact that there's not already consent from the rest of their party, let alone Democrats, on this is literally insane.
Yeah.
And it proves that they want this to happen, because what is their excuse other than we want illegals to vote?
I just don't necessarily agree, though. Democrats with a D next to their name who are elected into power want that. Your average liberal does not. Your average liberal does not believe in transgender rights. They don't believe that you should be transing the kids in elementary school. Your average liberal does not believe that you shouldn't have voter ID laws. They certainly don't believe that voter ID laws are racist. It's one of the weirdest things where the GOP will say things that the Republican base actually likes, yet the Democrats are so out of touch, and somehow they're more powerful in the way that they run the country when they're so vastly out of touch from their base. Whereas in the inverse, it's like the GOP can be so in touch with their base, and yet they can't get shit done.
Yeah, and then like when anyone asks, the question, can we do this? It's all, you're racist. Like we were saying with Candace and Chris Cuomo on the podcast. She asked him, do you think it's okay to have ID checks at voter booths? He's like, no, I do believe it's disenfranchising non-white voters. And she came back at him just saying, how? Are you saying that non-white people are incapable of registering to vote themselves?
Which is racist.
And also, like, this has nothing to do with race. It's laws. Like, if you are not a part of the country, if you don't pay taxes to it, you shouldn't have a say in what the country does. It's just common sense. But the left-wing groups, like Campaign Legal Center, say shameful bills like the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act often result in eligible U.S. citizens being incorrectly prevented from voting or being forced to jump through additional hoops to exercise their freedom to vote. It's a fabrication being peddled for personal and political gain by leaders who should know better. So they're like, there's no cause for concern, and this will only negatively affect legal voters. This is going to be, disenfranchising normal Americans how will it disenfranchise them? Like, they don't explain what they're talking about at all.
What do you think?
You could see there was a conscious shift in their game plan, like from 4 years ago, where they were looking to try to get Black Americans and Spanish and Latino Americans to try to get on board, and that was their like demo of choice. And now that the reason they had to move and make this the new demo of choice is because the people here, you can't pull the wool over their eyes any longer. Everybody sees it, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When I see something in front of my eyes enough time, you can't help but to deny it. And the election really opened my eyes the last time, because I really didn't realize, look, I'm a sports guy, man. I'm just forced to get into this the last 5 or 6 years as I become like grown up and I need to know. I saw stuff in front of my eyes, and when these people are telling me you're not seeing these boxes of ballots, you're not seeing people pull these out and check them off at 3 a.m. and I'm like, dude, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
So they can't no longer get people with any semblance of their own thought process, because once you see this stuff, they have to shift and try to grab another. And obviously, you see that's their master plan.
What's up, Rob?
Well, we always hear about the great replacement theory, right? And how that's right-wing ideology.
Tom Ellsworth, famous proponent of it.
Yes, he's a white nationalist.
White nationalist.
Media
Tom.
Matters wrote a hit piece on Vactame, and they claimed that Tom, I don't know if you know, BizDoc on the PBD podcast, is a white nationalist for talking about...
Sweetest man I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah.
And they go, a white nationalist. Because of the idea of the great replacement theory. I want to give you background on this, and then you tell me if this prediction turned out to be true. September of 2021, the U.S. media starts turning its attention to an increasing number of Haitian migrants seeking protection at the border in Del Rio, Texas. While most of the arriving migrants were either turned back into Mexico or deported to destitute conditions in Haiti, some Haitian families were allowed to stay in the U.S. This is September of 2021. Later that month, on September 22nd, Tucker Carlson provided his own theory as to what was happening. In a segment titled "Nothing About What's Happening is an Accident," Carlson said the current U.S. border policy is designed to change the radical mix of the country. In political terms, this policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries. Carlson concluded that Biden's policies with regards to the Haitian migrants have put the U.S. on a suicidal path. This is September of 2021. We are now 3 years removed from when Tucker first brought this up on television. Tell me, is it so much a conspiracy theory, this Great Replacement theory anymore?
No, it's happening.
Or what we're seeing with the how many illegal immigrants that have come into this country? You said 8 million.
I
On
think
the
it's way
conservative end?
Yeah.
On the conservative end,
yeah.
8 million people have come into this country, and you're going to tell me that that is right-wing propaganda, right-wing ideology, and bullshit? Well,
I
bullshit
think
on you.
The key word is obedient, because Chrissy was just saying, like, the average liberal wouldn't actually agree with these policies if they could see all laid on the table. I think the same thing applies to non-citizens. They don't agree with, if they could see every single policy that will be supported if Biden's going to win again, they won't agree with it.
I agree.
But they're low information voters, as the Democrats like to say about Republicans, and they're kept in the dark. They don't speak English as their primary language. They don't have access to news sources like VT.com, by the way, full report on this on VT.com, great news source, that can keep them informed. And so they were brought into the country by one specific party, and they feel that they can get deported if they don't keep voting for this one party, and that they're kept in fear, they're kept in ignorance by design by the Democrats, so they have a permanent voting block so they can do whatever they want with no repercussions.
What you said was very interesting. Low-informed
Yeah,
voter.
that's what they say about the Trump voters.
When I
they call
voted it as a Democrat, which I have in the past and I've admitted to,
Son of a bitch.
it was when I was not paying attention to actual policy, and I was paying attention to personality and social issues. And then I started focusing and becoming educated, and I went, this shit's retarded. I can't continue to vote this way. And now which way have I started voting? Republican. So it's very interesting. You can see, I was a low-informed voter and went, hey, this is weird. This doesn't make sense. Let me read more about this. And then I became informed, and I went, well, their policies suck. I hate every single one of them. I don't agree with any of them.
And you want to trip out? So I got a Minect yesterday. I don't want to say the person's name, but he's a Mexican guy. We were going back and forth, and he's like, Vinny, I love what you're doing. I love your love for the country. He's a Mexican guy, but he wanted to know about, the DACA. He's like, what if, a kid was brought here 20 years. They love the country. They're paying taxes. And then he goes, honestly, Vinny, growing up, all the Mexican news channels brainwash us in very serious ways, and it's sad to see how the Hispanic Mexican community gets brainwashed into hating America, only believing the Democrats, and building anger and fear against the Republican Party. And honestly, the way the Mexican culture is and the values Mexicans have aligned way more with the Republican Party. We are just being brainwashed by these new channels. God bless you and all that you do. And being a true patriot. This is messages I get about exactly your point.
Amazing.
It's the media. But if they really woke up, because in all honesty, I think we spoke about this before. The real number is around 20 million that are going to be here. Chrissy, I know it's disgusting. I fucking hate it. Now, since you're not going to deport them, Chris, there's zero chance anybody's going to grab these people and leave. Especially if Trump wins. The moment there's a video of them, ICE or whatever, grabbing one kid, they're going to go racist. And here we fucking go. The Joe Scarboroughs and all these Rachel Maddow losers are going to, don't forget what you're going to say, are going to jump at this thing. The real shift is going to be, how do you convert these people to become conservative?
It's happening.
Republican
I
voters?
hate
You
to be
think so?
Kara Swisher. I
No,
really
do it.
do. But I was in my Uber from the airport to my hotel last night, and I'm just talking to the Uber driver. I'll be honest, he's really hard to understand. He's from Panama.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me, I asked him point blank, who are you voting for? He's been a citizen for, I think he said like 20 years. He's been in the country. So he's probably been a citizen for about 15. He's like, ooh, what do you think of Trump? And most people look at me and they just assume, because I'm young and whatever, they just assume I'm voting for Biden, which is really funny.
Oh, that's
and so he was like, like, well, what do you think of Trump? Probably he's had some terrible interactions
Yeah, boy.
with people that look like me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, it's interesting. Explain why. He's like, well, I have a daughter who lives in Panama. She's 24 years old. And if I wanted to bring her over, it's about a 7-year process to bring her over. He's like, I've thought about just sending her to Mexico, having her walk across.
so
He's
funny.
making a joke about it, but at the same time, he's like, spot on. It's sometimes easier. I even talked to somebody who he was a visa holder in the U.S. with a previous company I was working for, and I was like, you know, man, if you can't get your visa renewed, you should just walk across the border and do some
Dead
do some
serious.
reporting.
Why would you wait?
There's a great article that goes to your point about if Trump starts putting people and deporting people, he'll be, the racist. This is an article that was written by the Washington Post, October 23rd of 2020. Kids in cages. It's true that Obama built the cages at the border, but Trump's zero tolerance immigration policy had no precedent. So even though Obama built the cages that Trump put the kids in, it's somehow Trump's fault that he didn't have
No precedent.
Yeah, no precedent.
Have you seen those
That's
cages?
such a classic spin
Like,
of
how?
the actual facts. Yeah, he did this, but it's this guy who actually utilized
Orange
them.
man.
What kind? Okay,
Orange
so
man bad.
So what was the plan? Why would you build them if you weren't going to use them in the first place?
Oh no, they were using them. You just didn't see it.
Yeah, have you guys seen those cages? I went and saw them in real life, and it's so interesting because the ones that were built under Trump are so much nicer than the ones
Yeah,
that
he's a hotel builder.
He made
They're gold.
the biggest and beautiful cages for the
Yeah,
children.
they're beautiful.
5-star hotel.
My cages are the
Yeah.
best cages.